Change the Climate, the program for and about the Olympia chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby, whose mission is to change the political climate for a livable world. Well, folks, the time has come. I'm leaving the show as producer, and unless one of you wants to take over, contact me through Facebook. These are the last 4 episodes. This month, we visit with an old friend. My guest today is the former host of Change the Climate, Ari Simmons. Hi, Ari.
Hello. Good to see you, Ed.
Well, it's good to see you. It's so great to see you. You were down in Portland, and of course, I'm up here in Olympia. And it's really good to see you. What has been happening? Tell me, I know that when you were doing Change the Climate, at the same time you're doing Change the Climate, you were also working on Olympia's community solar. Can you tell me how that got started and what your involvement with that was?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. So Olympia Community Solar is a 501c3 nonprofit located in downtown Olympia, and they have the mission to provide equitable access to our clean energy transition, primarily through community solar development, policy, and education. So they're an active group of younger folks in the community, really looking to ensure that projects around renewable energy are happening now, and they're happening for the community, by the community, and they're just really awesome group of people.
Yeah, and so the projects, I know they completed one project, the Hummingbird, but tell me about the Hummingbird. I don't think everybody, I mean, although we did do a show entirely on it, but maybe people don't know more about it.
Yeah, so in 2018, when we first got started, we were like, how can we really figure out how to get the community engaged with community solar, get the community knowledgeable, and really get a project going? So we began planning for the Hummingbird Community Solar Project, which is located in downtown Olympia on the Hands-On Children's Museum. It's a just over 100 kilowatt system. And for those of you that aren't versed in solar, that's about 300 solar panels, and it completely covers the entire roof of the museum. And what makes the Hummingbird Community Solar Project so special is that it has over 80 owners who have purchased shares or units of solar energy. And every year that the panels generate energy, the owners receive a check in the mail that reflects their energy savings. Another thing that's really special is that people who participated in Hummingbird had the option to donate units to a non-for-profit of their choice. So a good percentage of the array actually is donated to nonprofits all throughout Thurston County. So that is something that's really awesome and pretty unique about a community solar project in downtown. Olympia Community Solar also has been leading in policy efforts concerning solar energy, renewable energy, and of course, community solar itself. And we provide lots of educational resources to schools and to folks just looking to really get involved and engaged with solar energy. So in a nutshell, the Hummingbird was sort of born out of a lot of work that had been done prior to us becoming Olympia Community Solar. We kind of took that project on, made it pencil, and now we have this incredible array on top of the Hands-On Children's Museum.
So it is a what's called a production unit. I mean, a display. It like produces electricity to go on the grid.
Yes, so it is a net metered project. Mm-hmm. Right now, it of course is net metered to the Hands-On Children's Museum. However, the way the system works is Olympia Community Solar is the administrator of the solar units. So we are responsible for ensuring that everyone's share of the system is divided equally or divided amongst participants, and we make sure that they get the value of their contribution back. over time. So we estimate that the array will probably take about 15 years to pay back everyone who contributed to getting it up there. And after everyone is completely paid back over the course of, like I said, about 15 years, then the array will go to the Hands-on Children's Museum in perpetuity.
That's
And the
great.
energy will benefit the museum.
Yeah. Now, I
Yeah.
remember as you were going through it, you were there were ups and downs. There were all kinds of stuff that would happen, like any other job, I guess. But what was your job primarily? I know you were one of the founders of Olympia Community Solar, but what ended up being that you were responsible for?
Yeah. So Olympia Community Solar is small staffed. We were only about a team at most of 5 or 6, and then that of course ebbed and flowed, and sometimes we were down to a team of about 3. So I kind of took it upon myself and kind of took initiative over a lot of the communications and community building and marketing and management of what campaigns look like, what visuals and images and words can we put together to really help people of all ages, all backgrounds, all demographics understand this project, how it works, why it's important, and how folks can participate. So I was their communications director. And yeah, it was a really fun ride. I love OCS with all of my soul and being. I originally started off as a board member when we first were founded before we got funding, and I served as vice president alongside Mason, who's the current board president and was the board
Mason
president.
Rolfe, yeah.
Yeah, Mason Rolfe back in 2018. He was a good friend of mine. We worked on a campaign together, and I really loved him, and I loved the way we worked together and didn't want to stop. So, we had this grandiose vision for what we want community ownership over solar energy to be. And we want to create systems and mechanisms, not only in our communities, but throughout Washington and throughout Oregon, that allow all people to have ownership over solar energy, not just the ones that can afford a home and have an ideal roof. And, I think when we think about energy resilience and energy equity and just general empowerment, I think having ownership over your own
Power. Oh goodness, you've frozen. Are you gone? Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. I froze. Somebody froze. I know it got very cold in here. Okay, so what else are they doing besides the Hummingbird project? What are the next projects that they're doing?
So I can't speak on behalf of Olympia Community Solar anymore because I no longer work there. I do know that when I left, we were working on a new community solar project, which is called Sunflower Community Solar, and that is going to be located on the roof of the farmers market, so right next door from the Hands-on Children's Museum. It's going to be a slightly smaller system, I think around 80 kilowatts, so just a little smaller than the HOCM project, and that's because of limited roof space. And when I left, we were tabling at the farmers market, making sure that folks knew that the project was happening. Olympia Community Solar also just ran a program called Solarize Thurston, which allowed homeowners to go in at a group purchasing rate, and that enabled more folks to access solar. We partnered with Puget Sound Cooperative Credit Union, and they were able to provide a really great low interest loan program specifically designed for Solarize. So we dramatically lowered the barriers for access for folks who do own homes, who are looking to install solar, but the kind of cost prohibitive aspect was greatly reduced through this program. So I'm not totally sure what else OCS has in the works. but am excited to learn more as they go. And from what I understand, Sunflower is almost completely enrolled, so that will be two successfully enrolled community solar projects. And if I know anything about the team, they probably have more coming. So super proud of them and really honored to say that I helped to found and support that organization in its sort of infancy and its maturity. And everyone who's listening to this should go support their work because they're an amazing group of people who are really going to make change in Washington and throughout the US and maybe even the world. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know that they were lucky to have you. Your intellect and you're catching on things very quickly and understanding things and what you've learned on the job. And now you took all that stuff that you learned on the job and you took it south. And you're in Portland and you're with Portland Community Solar. Is that the name of it, or no? What is
No, but I am in Portland.
Okay.
And I currently work for another nonprofit called Solar Oregon. And we
Okay.
do similar work. However, we're not specifically focused on community solar as our main project, although we do have some really awesome community solar projects coming up. And I'm really excited to kind of be a part of the Oregon clean energy landscape because I think it is really progressive and has a lot of potential. We also serve as an education resource for folks looking to go solar, very similar to Olympia Community Solar, as well as kind of bridge gaps in the industry between developers, between installers, between, the whole gambit of solar energy professionals. We serve as a resource tool for them. So yeah, I'm just starting my third week. I've been there almost a month now, or fourth week. I'll be starting my fourth week next week.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of learning,
Yeah.
you know.
Are they how long have they been in existence, and what did they do? When did they get founded, and what have they done before you?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So Solar Oregon has been established for about 40 years.
Ooh.
So they've been around a really long time.
Yeah.
And they've done a number of things to really thwart solar energy to the forefront of policy here in Oregon. We've been providing support for the solar energy industry now for over 40 years. And, within the last 20 or so, we've really seen the industry grow tremendously. And we're just going to continue to see that. Another thing that Solar Oregon does that I think is really cool is support more rural communities and rural cities, because majority of Oregon is not a metropolis like Portland, but much like Washington, a lot of the smaller cities need attention and resources and access to solar energy, just as us urbanites here in larger cities do. So Solar Oregon has really worked to help the smaller cities establish pretty robust systems.
Can you tell me what are some of the things you're doing now? And you probably, if they're just in the infancy or whatever, you might not be able to talk about them, but what have you been doing there?
Yeah.
What are you doing there?
So I'm really fortunate to work in a small team again. I work with one other person. His name is Zach, and he's really awesome. And he's been working at Solar Oregon kind of by himself now for about 2 years. We have a great board. We have a board of directors, about 17 members now. And I'm kind of entering the organization as we're doing some pretty dramatic changes to our vision, to our strategic plan. So I'm kind of coming in at the start of what is feeling to me to be a new, refreshed version of Solar Oregon, which I'm really excited about because I have lots of ideas on how to, make a organization effective and cool and a place that you want to be and support. So I've just been kind of starting with that. I've really taken to social media. So if you watching don't currently follow Solar Oregon, please do. And Zach has done a really great job of laying out several projects that we'll be working on at the end of this year, beginning of next year. One of which is a solarized community solar project. So working on getting several large systems installed here in the Portland metro area. We're working on weaving together solar stories and bringing together nonprofits that would like solar energy or like energy efficiency upgrades, but might not know exactly how to get them or what resources are available to them, or even how to write grants to make their solar energy goals a reality. So I'll be helping kind of craft those stories together so that nonprofits, especially nonprofits run by communities of color and historically marginalized communities, are poised and ready to meet their solar energy goals and be leaders in their community for, renewable energy. And lots of other stuff in the works. There's a lot of really great ideas going around right now, and a lot of impetus to really kind of drive renewable energy to the forefront of conversations, and not just renewable energy, but like I said, accessible and equitable renewable energy.
Yeah. So Solar Oregon has been there for 40 years. Can your experience in Washington and compare your experience in Washington to Oregon, do you think that comparing your experience in Washington and your experience in Oregon, is there a community of people who do solar that is more cooperative in Oregon, or is there how do you compare the two? Or can you compare the two?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I think coming into this, I almost wish that Washington and Oregon engaged with each other more, because I think that there's wisdom on both ends to share with one another to make these programs even more effective and more far-reaching. And that's definitely like something that I see myself hopefully doing, because there are so many amazing people in both states doing very similar work, but bridging, ideas and things together. I mean, obviously every state works and operates differently, and I think Oregon has a really fantastic established landscape for renewable energy. Similar to Washington, we have a 100% renewable goal. And groups like OSEA, the Oregon Solar Energy Industries Association, and several other organizations centered in equity and just transition here, are doing some really incredible rulemaking for how these programs are going to roll out, who they're going to affect, how much it's going to cost people, and who is actually going to be on the ground doing this work and transitioning our economy to a renewable energy economy. And I think like the conversations here in Oregon, just from my experience, and I guess in this role at Solar Oregon, are just slightly more robust than in Washington. Not gonna hate on Washington though. There's, like I said, some really amazing programs there. But when I was working for Olympia Community Solar, we were fighting for a community solar program that's been established here in Oregon. Fighting for increased net metered solar. Oregon's kind of got a grip on that. And then there's just general cooperation with utilities and things like that. Those are discussions that need to be, I think, more fully worked through in order to make progressive policy decisions that are safe and effective for Oregonians and Washingtonians alike, but are also really pushing the needle on reducing our emissions and getting off a fossil fuel economy, which is way easier said than done. But and like this is all in the month and a half I've lived in Oregon that I've been learning it, and I might not be hitting the mark on as much as or as deeply as I'd like to be, But from what I can tell, both states are really doing an amazing job. I think we're blessed to live in the Pacific Northwest in general, where these conversations can be had openly and freely. And I would really, love to see this movement led by a more diverse subset of people, and would really like, our economy to shift toward equity and equality. So I think the renewable energy industry has a really unique opportunity to be poised and ready to do that and support communities who need it the most. So,
Do you know if and here I'll show my ignorance again. Is this movement that is going state by state, is it widespread among the states, or is California has that, and are other states that you know of creating their own centralized social movement of solar?
yeah, so I think you mean like decentralized solar. So
Yes,
like
yes, yes.
microgrid systems and community-owned energy systems. I think that there is movement for it all along the West Coast, even in California, and even on the East Coast. New Jersey is like a pioneer in decentralized solar and
Great.
modernization.
Yeah.
Words. I can words. And like I do think that, these programs do exist in other places. And I just think that we're in such a unique place where we can really learn from each other and really pressure our legislative officials to really take seriously and learn how to, move the needle on this. Because I mean, Citizens Climate Lobby knows, like the most recent IPCC report just came out. Humanity is in code red, and we don't always have time to develop these bureaucratic political systems or even these very highly economic systems. Like we just don't really have time. We're in a phase right now in humanity where we just need to be moving as rapidly as possible. And I think we have so many of the solutions. We just really need to be cognizant of who they affect, what their outcomes are going to be, and being prepared to mitigate and adapt to any hiccups along the way.
Yeah, and it's the future. It is the future, and it's getting there, and the federal initiative will have to just come along behind the states, and it's a very positive thing. It's not, it's one of those things that everybody should realize, that it's not all doom and gloom. It's going to be a good, bright future with renewable energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and it's not just renewable energy either. It's habitat restoration. It's making sure that we are locking in our agricultural systems. It's, community prep, and just making sure that our community is aware of the hazards and is prepared individually, making sure you have enough food and water and resources, just in case, something does happen. And we're living in this world of extreme instability right now. So it's important to keep all of those things in mind as well.
yeah. Well, I know that it's great to have you on board pushing this along. I know you'll do a great job. Thank you very much. All right, it's great to see you, and I'm sure that our audience is great to see you and catch up and find out what you're up to now.
Yeah, go support Olympia Community Solar and also support Solar Oregon. They're amazing organizations run by passionate people who want to make a difference in the world. So
yeah. Thank you, Ari. We'll talk to you again later. Bye.
Bye.
Would you like to know more about Citizens Climate Lobby or join the Olympia Group? Go to citizensclimatelobby.org/chapters. Thank you for watching Change the Climate.
Welcome to the far middle, that delightful headspace between the far left
Namaste.
and the far right.
Howdy.
We like ideas from both sides of the aisle here and realize that when we hurt the other side, we're really just hurting ourselves.
But when we hurt ourselves, we're also hurting the other side.
Ow! It's only when we stop trying to hurt each other that we can solve big issues, like climate change. Right, guys?
I mean, I don't know about that.
I wouldn't say that at all.
Definitely
Say something
not.
else completely.
Here in the far middle, we support a climate change solution called the Energy Innovation Act. It's a national policy that addresses climate change without growing the size of government or destroying our modern economy. Let me explain.
Nice one.
That was clearly your fault.
Okay, here we
It
go.
was on your side.
My side's
Your
doing just
side
fine
did it.
over here.
Let me explain. Fossil fuels are taxed at the source for every ton of CO2 they put into the air. Energy companies can still do business. They just have to pay a fee if they pollute the air because, well, we all breathe it. The collected money is split up and distributed to every American taxpayer, not the government.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, that actually makes sense.
So we all agree then?
No.
The money comes as a monthly check you can use to compensate for higher energy prices or use to invest in clean energy, which doesn't get carbon taxed. With clean energy on an equal playing field, the American free market gets kicked into an innovation frenzy to see who can create the cheapest, cleanest energy to get your business first. We literally can't even imagine what cool tech will pop up because it hasn't been invented yet.
Cool.
And some pretty big hitters support the idea of putting a price on carbon. 27 Nobel Prize-winning economists, literally all living ex-Federal Reserve chairs, and over 3,500 other economists from across the country.
Even oil companies like it.
And like a gazillion nonprofits.
This is great.
I agree.
Aw, bring it in, guys! The thing is, we need your help letting Congress know climate change isn't a far left or a far right issue. Visit farmiddle.com to let Congress know that the far middle is alive and well, and that we want them to start working together, shoulder to shoulder, on climate.